Hello, everyone, and good morning to another session of Pueblo Science's Good Morning Science, the home edition. My name is Dr. Alon Eisenstein, and I will be the host for today. And I would like to welcome back all the returning viewers that have seen our previous episodes. Thank you for sticking through with us, and we hope that you've enjoyed all the past episodes, or most of them, and that you enjoyed doing these science activities at the safety of your home. If you are a new viewer, then welcome to our long-running series of Good Morning Science, the home edition. This is episode number 11, but you can still watch all the previous recorded episodes on our Facebook page as well as on our YouTube channel. And of course, whether you're a returning viewer or a new viewer, be sure to subscribe to our page and follow our page and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you will be alerted as soon as we have another episode coming up. They are live streamed every Thursday at 10:30 Eastern Standard Time. If you've never heard of Pueblo Science before, I will just begin with a very quick introduction about who we are and what we do. And so Pueblo Science is a charity based in Toronto, Canada, and we are a group of dedicated scientists, educators, communicators, and we provide professional development science training for science educators and teachers across the world, focusing on rural communities, remote locations, hard to reach, that are typically under-resourced and under-supported. And so we go to these locations to deliver our training workshops to bring new ideas and ways to improvise with whatever is accessible and available in that location to enhance the quality of science teaching in that location. As part of our work, we develop and do all these type of science activities, not just with professional educators, but with parents, with kids, with seniors, with adults, anybody who likes to get their hands on science. And we do that in different ways and locations. And currently, because of the COVID-19, we are all staying home or trying to stay at home as much as possible. And that's why we started this series, so you can get your hands on science at the comfort and safety of your home, as we all have to do to keep this pandemic in check. So, what are we going to have for you for today? Well, we have 3 experiments lined up for you. The first one is going to be relatively simple ingredients. So we just need a few balloons. I've got some colorful balloons here. We're going to use some hex nuts. So here's a hex nut. I've got a few sizes just so I can try out to see what it looks like. Here is 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so I've got a few hex nuts. Now, if you don't mind tying up your balloon, that's okay. I'm gonna want to save my balloons for maybe another activity, so I also brought some clips so I can close the balloon, but then I can open it and reuse them again, right? Reuse as much as you can, if not recycle, and if not, try to reduce the use as well, right? So that's going to be experiment number 1. For experiment number 2, it's going to be a bit more complicated with the list of ingredients. So pay attention, and if you miss a beat, you can always check out our poster promotion for this event that had the list all the experiment materials ingredient listed there. We're going to use some lemon juice if you have the bottled one, or just a fresh lemon. And of course, we're going to need a cup or a little container to squeeze it into. I'm going to need some baking soda and a bowl with a spoon or a teaspoon, depending on how much you want, and some water. Now, in I'm in front of a computer, so I will use a cup of water as my source of water. We're also going to need some juice. If you have concentrated grape juice, that's great. I'm using, you can't really see it in this direction, but it's blueberry juice. I have frozen blueberries in the freezer, so I just took 3-4 blueberries and put some boiling water, and that's gonna give me a nice concentrated blueberry juice. So you can see it here. There we go. See how dark and purple it is? Isn't that great? Yeah. Okay. And we're gonna need some brushes. There we go. And some pieces of paper. And you might want to also try to get some paper towel. We're gonna keep it mess free. I have some Q-tips. So these are, if you don't know the Q-tip brand, these are cotton swabs. So cotton swab or Q-tips, whatever you have in your location. Some toothpicks, and I've got a candle, a tea candle, and matches to light it up. If you have a lighter, it's going to work with a lighter as well. Or you can try a hair dryer. Again, you need electricity. Relatively, you should use a powerful hair dryer. It'll make things work faster, but flame will work faster. So we'll do that for the video. Okay, so that's all the materials for experiment number 2. And for experiment number 3, what we're going to do is I'm going to hand it over to Bipasha. You've seen her in our previous episodes. And she's going to use dry erase markers and a glass container that has a flat bottom to it. You can also use a regular plate, but make sure that that plate ideally would be relatively deep so you can actually pour water in it and it's not going to spill too easily. So that's all for the introduction. Let's get started with experiment number 1. As I mentioned before, experiment number 1, we're just going to use balloons. I'm going to use some clips, and I'm going to use these hex nuts. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to start off with a balloon, just a regular balloon. I'm going to start with a middle-sized hex nut. I'm going to put it into the balloon, drop it in, there we go. And I'm going to inflate the balloon. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, and you can see the hex nut is in the balloon. And instead of tying it up, if you don't mind, don't mind using the balloon again, or you don't want to use it later on, you can just tie a knot. I'm just going to use paper clip because I want to reuse that later on as well. Okay, so what are we going to do now? I'm going to now swirl the balloon, and I'll be quiet, and we're going to listen together to any particular sound. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, so the balloon is screeching. Now, why is it screeching? So first of all, when I twirl the balloon, the first thing that we can see is that the hex nut, once I get it going in a particular way, in a constant pattern, I get the hex nut to spin around the edge of the balloon, like I don't know if you've seen those death cages where you have motorcycle bike riders going along inside upside down like a loop inside a metal cage, or if you're going on a roller coaster and you go in a loop, right? You don't fall, you just complete the loop and keep going. So this is of course part of the rotational motion that was activated onto the hex nut, and at the same time, when we have an object moving circular motion, it's applying centripetal forces, which means that if it's trying to go in a circle along the edge, it's actually forcing its way out in a straight angle like this. So the force of motion at this point is not, it's not curved, it's straight out. Now, because the hex nut has all these straight edges and corners, it doesn't roll smoothly like a wheel. Every time it hits a corner, that corner actually pushes on the balloon, and the balloon being elastic, it's pushing it back. And so it actually, instead of rolling, it hops, bump, 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 bump on the corners. And every time it hits, it acts like a force hitting on the balloon. So it's like thumping. And it does that obviously at a high frequency. And because of the balloon being nicely stretched, it's amplifying that vibration, and that's the noise we can hear. That's the screeching. Now, when we spin it fast, the pitch goes higher, so the frequency, the number of thumping per second increases, so we can hear the pitch goes higher as we spin it faster. And when we let it subside, we hear it go slowly and slowly down. Now, what's going to happen if instead of using the medium size, I'm going to use the small size? Let's see what happens there. I'm just going to put it both in the same balloon and see if I can get them to spin at the same time for comparison. Now, if you're using a clip like myself, now you see why it's actually nice and useful, because then you can just pop in the second one and try it together. Ready? Let's see if I can get them to spin together. Now, I don't know if you're able to distinguish the two tones, but because there's a slight difference in sizes, one is bigger and one is smaller, when I twirl the balloon, they're both forced to spin at the same frequency. So they're completing the same number, they're completing the same complete circle at the same time. But because the smaller nut has a smaller gap between the two corners, as it spins, it's actually creating a higher frequency, a higher pitch. So even though both of them are spinning at the same time, one is actually thumping on the balloon more frequent because the gaps are smaller, and that creates a higher pitch compared to the bigger nut that needs less hops between corner to corner, and that's a lower pitch that we can hear. Okay, that was cool, right? Now, parents, I sincerely apologize that I just showed your kids how to make a screeching noise with a hex nut and a balloon. If it drives you crazy, please ask them to give it a rest for a while. But it is fun to make noise and see how loud you can make it. And don't forget to take a video and share it on our Facebook page so we can see in the comments for this video how loud you can get it and how does the pitch vary with the size of your hex nut. Okay, let's put it to the side. There we go. Okay, so that was fun. Making noise is really part of the fun of science. Let's go to our next experiment. Like I said before, this experiment involves a bit more material, so let's see what we need. So the first thing we're going to try is doing something that you probably have seen before. We're going to write a secret message. How are we going to write a secret message? Well, I'm going to use lemon juice. I'm just going to squeeze a few drops. It actually doesn't need much. Here, I'm just going to squeeze a few lemon drops to my cup. There we go. And now that I have some lemon juice, smells beautiful. I don't know about you, but I'm looking forward to the day where the video will be able to actually include smells, so we can actually enjoy the smell of things happening on videos. Because lemon juice smell is great. So I'm going to use the lemon juice, and I'm using the cotton swab. and I'm going to write something on my piece of paper. Okay, so here, bear with me. I'm just going to write a message. And okay, I hope I got that right. Now, if I hold it up to the light, you can see the wet patches, right? And if you look really careful, you might actually be able to make out what I wrote. Now, to get the effect right, you can do one of two things. So we can either let it sit for a long time and wait for it to dry. We can use a hair dryer to make the drying process go faster, or we can just go ahead and use it as is. If you want to get the real effect of a secret message, I would recommend at least keep drying it up a bit. So let's plug your ears. I'm going to dry it up a bit. Okay, that's good enough for now, right? Okay, so now I have my paper. There are wet patches. It's not too easy to read, but if you really try hard, you might be able to. Again, if we let it sit for a long time, it will dry up and it'll be really hard to see. So how do we bring this message to light so we can actually see it? Option number one, like I said, is you can use a hair dryer. And we're going to use the hair dryer. It needs to be a relatively powerful hair dryer, so it's really hot, and you're going to dry it a long time until it really comes to light and you see an effect. For this video, for time management, I'm just going to use a candle. So this is an experiment. Obviously, I'm using flame. Anytime you use flame for an experiment, please, please, please make sure that there is an adult present to make sure that it doesn't go wrong. I should point out that if there is a fire and you're using anything that involves fire, make sure that you have a good plan on how to take it out. So if you want to have some water available so you can spill it, spill the water over and dump the water. So be careful with fire and have a plan B. What happens if it goes wrong? So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to start here. I'm just going to do it like this. I'm just going to start putting my piece of paper over the flame. Now I'm trying to do, heat up my paper, but I don't want it to actually burn. So I don't want it to catch fire. I just want it to warm up really, really well. Now I'll try and see if I can put my camera in a way where you can actually see what's happening as I'm drying it, okay? So let me just move my computer closer and tilt it down and see if you can actually see what happens as I move it. So I'm going to do it very gently, and I'm going to keep on moving. I'm going to pretend that I don't know where my writing was, of course, right? Because if it's a secret message, you shouldn't be able to know where the writing is. So I'm just going to trace all over my paper, and I'm going to scan it, and I'm going to try and heat it up, but not too much that it starts burning. Okay, so at some point, this needs patience. And if you get impatient and you're moving too close to the light, to the flame, you might actually burn the paper, and then your message will be lost, and that defeats the purpose, right? So here, I'm just gonna do this. Here, I'm gonna turn it upside down so you might be able to see the message as it starts coming, and you might want to move faster, slower, just to make sure that things start to, look what's happening there. So we start seeing that certain places are actually changing color. So I'm going to move closer, So what's happening? What are we looking at? Well, the areas where I wrote my message with my lemon juice. Lemon juice is acidic, and it has an organic acid, which means that it's carbon-based acid. And when we put it on the paper, paper is also carbon-based, but oops, sorry, I accidentally took out my flame, so I'm just going to relight it. So paper is fiber-based, which is cellulose, which is, again, carbon fiber. And really what happens is that carbon fiber, it's really a lot of carbon fiber intertwined with itself. It gets squeezed really hard. And so the first thing that the light does is it starts burning smaller molecules before it can burn larger molecules, because larger molecules needs to get broken down first. And because the organic acid, the carbon-based acid in the lemon juice is a smaller molecule, it gets burned first. And that's what we see as we heat it up with the flame. So the carbon molecule, carbon-based acid, gets burning. Now, some people, if you look online, some people say that it's also because there's sugar in the lemon. So in that case, the suggestion is that we also see a caramelization of the sugar in the lemon juice. Now, the question I have for you is, if we need the sugar to see the caramelization, what do you think? Will it work if you use vinegar instead of using lemon juice, right? Vinegar is an acid as well. It's carbon-based acid. So I will encourage you to ask yourself, do we just need the acid, or do we also need the sugar? Or maybe we just need the sugar. So when you try this at home, I want you to do it 3 times. I want you to do it 1 time with lemon juice, which we just said has an acid, a carbon-based acid. It has some sugars, and it has some, I lost my train of thought. So it has sugars and it has an acid. So the control would be using vinegar, which doesn't have any sugar. It only has acetic acid, so only carbon-based acid, and use sugary water. So just mix sugar and water and write your message and see if that works. So 3 experiments. 1 is with lemon juice that has both acid and sugars. 1 only sugars, which is sugar and water, and 1 only acid, which is vinegar. And see, can you actually get the same effect without the acid or without the sugar, and maybe you need both. And show us your results on our Facebook page. Okay, I'm just going to turn that up, blow it out, and here's my message. So my message is now very easy to read. It's nice and caramel color. It's burnt, lightly burnt brown, and that was a chemical process of burning. Isn't that fun, eh? Now, this is, like I said before, slightly dangerous because of the fire. We can actually try a different way of writing a secret message. For this message, you can try using a piece of paper, but what I found is that regular paper, printer paper, doesn't work very well. But I don't have any watercolor paper at home. So if you have watercolor paper, it's probably going to be better because it absorbs the liquids better than printer paper. But because I don't have it, it also actually works well with paper towels. So let's try this again, but this time with paper towels. So how are we going to do the same idea of secret message without the flame? So for this one, I'm just going to start off with baking soda. So in this case, I'm gonna just take a teaspoon of baking soda, and I'm gonna mix it in with 2 teaspoons of water. So one heaping spoon of baking soda and 2 teaspoons of water, and it's a nice slurry. There's a lot of excess, so it doesn't dissolve completely, but that's okay. And we have excess of that. Of excess of baking soda in the water. and that's perfect. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to take a brush. I'm going to take a small brush. Again, you can try using cotton swabs. You can try using toothpicks. I found that especially with paper towel, it does soak up and smear. So I'm going to have to write really large letters or write large anything. So I'm just going to use a brush, but I'm going to dab it really lightly and see what I can do. So I'm just going to I'm going to write my message and let's see. And it's not really a message, it's just a drawing. Okay, that's good enough. I also want to be mindful of time because we also need to give leave enough room time for Bipasha for her experiment. So I drew my painting. Now if I hold it up to you, you can actually see what I just drew, right? Because it's wet. Now, once again, I can let it lie and let it dry completely before I do anything, or I can just make the drying process faster with my hair dryer. Okay, so I dried up my paper. It's now harder to see. I can spend longer to and be more meticulous with my drying process, but I don't think it's needed for the demonstration, but it just gives you an idea of what to expect. Now I'm going to need my juice. So the juice actually needs to be colorful and acidic. So in this case, I'm using, like I said, blueberry juice that I created by using frozen blueberries and soaking it in boiling water. If you have grape juice concentrate, that will also work as well. So let's look close up what's going to happen now. So here's my my message, and here's my juice, and I'm gonna take my brush and I'm gonna put it in my liquid and just paint it over very gently. So I don't want to have too much juice because it will soak up very fast, but let's see what we can do. So you see that the first thing that is visible is that the color is purple, except for certain places where it changes from purple to greenish. So now if you saw my heart shape, that's good enough. You can actually see now that the heart shape has turned greenish. Now, why is that happening? If you ever tried the red cabbage experiment, you know that when you take red cabbage juice and you mix it up with certain ingredients, it changes color. The chemical that gives the red cabbage its color, that chemical will change color based on the acidity of the environment. The same goes for blueberry juice and grape juice and other type of vegetables and fruits. And these chemicals will change color based on the acidity of the environment where they are. So in grape juice, in blueberry juice, it only has two colors. It either has a purple color or a bluish color, which sometimes look more greenish. Red cabbage has a lot more range of colors, so it can actually be red, it can be green, it could be blue, it can be yellow. So it has more interesting complexity of colors, but most of the vegetables actually only have two different colors. You can try white onion skin, and other type of vegetables that can be used to change color with the acidity of the environment. Now, baking soda is actually basic, and that's why it changes color. You can actually do the same experiment. Instead of baking soda, you can use Windex or window cleaner, which is also very basic. Will give you a similar effect. Again, you can just draw it and dry it up. The only disadvantage is that it usually has some coloring in it anyway, so it's already blue. So even when you dry that paper, you'll see that blue hue of residue from the pigment they put in Windex, in the window cleaning agent. So that was my secret message. Two ways of writing your secret message. One slightly more safer without the flame, but definitely the lemon juice writing is more spectacular because of the flame. So that is pretty much all the experiments that I had to show you. I hope you enjoyed that, and definitely share back what you were able to write with your lemon juice and or your baking soda. And if you want to try other materials that you might have in the home that are basic, that you can try, see how they react with your blueberry grape juice or red cabbage juice, and share it back to our Facebook page in the comments of this video. Now, before I sign off, I will hand it over to Bipasha, who will show you a very different experiment using dry erase markers and a glass container.
Hi everyone, it's good to see you again. And today I have a fun experiment in store for you that for once doesn't involve any food. We do have some water involved, but no food this time. Today I'm going to show you guys how to make your drawings come to life. I'm sure a lot of you love to draw. I'm sure a lot of you have drawn on whiteboards. I have a lot of fun drawing on whiteboards. I really love playing with dry erase markers. And with the help of dry erase markers and some water, we can make our drawings, and obviously some science, we can make our drawings come to life. So for this experiment, or magic, we need a glass bowl or plate, something that can hold water without it falling off when you're tipping the bowl around. We need dry erase marker, and we need some water. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw something pretty simple. So forewarning, the technique to get the drawings to come to life is kind of difficult. So maybe start off with some simpler drawings, such as a line, or you can call it a worm. I might draw a worm, because the technique that I'll describe to you is slightly difficult to get right in the first try. So start off with something simple, and then once you get better at it, you can draw even humans or spiders or anything that you wish, and you can make it come to life. So just for the sake of demonstration, I'm gonna show you guys a simple line for now. Maybe I'll draw another line. It'd be nice to have some lines floating around. So here are 3 lines, or if you want to be nice to me, let's call them worms. And then I'm going to take the water and I'm going to pour it away from the drawings, tipping the bowl. I don't want any water to come in contact with the drawings. And then I'm going to slowly move the water towards the drawings. Now what's important here is we need the water to go under the drawings, between the glass and the drawings, not on top of the drawings, because we need to push the drawings away from the glass. So we're not going to be able to see much because I'm going to bring it very close to my face to get the technique right, but I will hopefully show you the end product. So let's carefully tip the water towards the drawing. First line. Under. Oh, okay, so that didn't work that well. It worked slightly. Oh, okay. So whatever lines. Oh, you can see it's wriggling around. Okay, so let's try again with the rest of our lines. Go under the drawing. This one didn't work that well. That's okay. Got another line. Oh no. Oh no. Okay. So as you can see, this is slightly difficult to get right. But you can see that one of my lines, if I hold up the paper, one of my little worms. Oh, there we go. Oh look, my worm is stuck on the on the wall. And there we are. Okay. Some of my other worms have also started wiggling around. Okay, so let me show you. So you can see that I have these little black worms or lines, call them worms just to be fun, floating around in my water, and you can see that one of my lines is stuck to the bottom. It's nearly there, it's coming to life slowly, maybe needs a little bit more magic, more of a push. But the other worms have come to life. So, as you can see, this technique is slightly difficult, so it's okay to keep on trying, take some help, start off with simpler things and then go to complicated ones. But the end product is so cool. You can see little worms. I myself have a lot of difficulty getting this right. So I'm also going to keep on trying. And hopefully one day I am as pro as you guys are going to be soon. So yeah, so that's how we can make our drawings come to life. As you can imagine, it's not easy making non-living things move around. Inanimate objects move around as per our own will. That's a difficult process. So understandably, this is a slightly difficult experiment, but I would encourage you to try it again and again. So now let's try to understand a little bit of the science behind it. So, the dry erase markers, they are made of pigment, colored pigment, and alcohol. So what happens is that when I draw on a surface, the alcohol evaporates really quickly into the atmosphere. It disappears. It goes from a liquid to a gaseous phase really quickly. But the pigment, which is also dissolved in the alcohol, it, on touching the surface, becomes a solid. And these little pigment solids are close together in the drawing. So when I put water underneath the drawing, if you saw that when the water was on top of the drawing, it didn't work. That's because it kind of just washed over the drawing. But if I glide water underneath the drawing, then the water pushes the drawing off the glass and allows it to float around in the water. So I encourage you to try this out. It's a really fun experiment. It does take a little bit of trial and error, but that's what science is, right? So I hope you guys had fun trying to make our drawings come to life, and I'll see you next week, hopefully with an experiment with more appreciable results, kind of like last times with the cool colorful M&Ms or the dancing raisins. Let's try again next time. Okay, see you guys next week. Bye.
As I'm signing off, I would like to thank you again for taking the time to watch our video. I hope you enjoyed the experiments. I will invite you to keep following us for future episodes that we will publish. If you love what we do, please do sign up for the Facebook page or YouTube channel. We can also we also have a presence on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And if you believe in our charitable mission, we would very much appreciate your kind donations that you can do by either the Facebook page or our homepage as well. So that's all from me for this week. Stay safe, stay home, stay healthy. Bye from me for now.